Good Thursday evening. Welcome to another edition of the Sideline Junkies DC Sports Rundown. It's the big guy KG, sitting in with the incomparable, the undefeated, sometimes right, never wrong.
Sometimes
Midnight
white.
Ride. How you doing tonight, man?
Good, man. There's open salvos, and then there's what we get now.
Well, I'm guessing we just might as well go ahead and get into it and say the hell with it. F it. Breaking news that came out a little over an hour ago. Patrick Ewing is out at Georgetown, so he will no longer coach up on the hill. Some say, hey, we seen it coming. Others, like myself, I believe he didn't get enough time, with everything he had to deal with. But I'm going to give the floor to the Midnight Rider.
No.
Nah, I want you to go first. Because if you
No. Because this is you. This is not.
Yeah, this is me.
If this was a Nats rant, you'd let me go first. So I'm going to let you go ahead because this is more yours. See, I'm going to be more cerebral. You're going to be more emotional. So I'm going to let the emotions go. Go ahead and let it out, man. It's like a good fart. You got to let it out. It's better out than in.
Here's my thing. And this is what I'm going to say. I'm trying to get my stats and stuff together. But on the surface, for Patrick Ewing, I think this was too early. But we had this conversation on air, and we had a lot of feedback, and there were a lot of articles. Your cousin, he sent out an article. He put an article up, and we talked about it. And I understood where everybody was coming from, especially, diehard Georgetown fans. I understand where they're coming from. I'm a diehard fan myself. It's just, here's my thing. At Georgetown, he started in 2017, 2018, with the blessing of Big John Thompson, JT3, and the Thompson family of taking this job because JT3 was already released from his position, which I said, hey, I didn't think he should have been released from his position. In 2017, 2018, and I didn't realize this was year 5, man. I'm sorry, year 6. 15 and 15, 5 and 13 in the Big East. 2018, 19, 19 and 14. Made it to the NIT that year, 9 and 9 in the Big East. 2019, 2020, which was a COVID year. 15 and 17. 2021, 13 and 13, 7 and 9. Won the Big East that year. Lost in the first round. 6 and 25 last season. 0 and 19 in the Big East. This year, 7 and 25. 2 and 18 in the Big East. And relieved of his duties after last night's loss to Villanova. Personally, I still think this was too soon, too early, due to what he had to deal with coming in and trying to restore a program to its former glory. And these are the things you expect when you have someone that is so decorated, someone that is family taking over for family. And something you said was Georgetown needs to get away from the tree of Big John. And unfortunately, his roots run so deep. Unless you go get Pitino or Shaka Smart or somebody of that nature, you're never going to get away from that up on the hill. I believe it was a 2019-2020 season. Matt McClung and 2 other players, 3 players that were top players for this team were dismissed from the team. Okay. Georgetown suffered because of that, and they never really recovered. Yeah, they won the Big East tournament in 2020, 2021, but the age of COVID also messed up a lot. Pat's recruiting classes were not, I don't even think they were 2-star recruiting classes. Something had to change. And he never had the talent. He never had that one player that every Georgetown coach has. Every season you have that one player, whether it's a John Wallace, a Kevin Braswell, a Allen Iverson, or you have a duo where you have Allen Iverson, Victor Page. You have the Twin Towers and Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo. You have a team that's put together and constructed to win. And it's like they never had that guy up on the hill. And it sounds like I'm making excuses, but I'm a little emotional right now. So excuse me if I'm making excuses, but damn it, I can do that. I can do that because I'm emotional right now. Big fan of Patrick Ewing. And I always said that it was overdue for him to get a head job. Maybe that's the wrong terminology. A head coaching job.
Better word use.
Yes. So, no, I'm not happy about it. I understand it. But understanding and being happy are two different things. I understand why he was fired. I understand. Well, I don't want to say fired. I want to say let go. I understand it.
They parted ways.
And I think it was mutual. And it does not change.
I think the parting ways was a soft blow. It was a soft landing spot. It's like when somebody is somebody's going to break up with you, and you try to stop them and say you try to break up with them first. That's exactly what that was.
The pre-breakup stage.
Yeah. So I hear you on all this, but I just don't see the hope. I mean, you said it's not enough time, but he had 6 years. There are other coaches in this process that's gone through COVID and gone through everything. But as I look at them going forward, I just don't see where the building block is that's going to make this better or make it continue on any kind of a path that is good. They're 2-37 in the Big East the last 2 years. They're 13-50 the last 2 seasons. They were 13-13 and lucked into a Big East title run. And I'm gonna say lucked in because you wouldn't have thought that team was gonna win that. They got there, they got hot, they played. But then when you follow up with 6-25 or 7-25, you're not built. You're not going the right direction. And I understand that things happen, but as a coach, you gotta overcome them. And the bad thing, I feel bad because I feel like this, to some extent, almost ends Patrick Ewing's career as a college coach for sure. As a basketball NBA coach, he may get a chance somewhere, but he's gonna be far down on the chairs. He's not gonna be a first chair or second chair assistant. He's gonna be a third or fourth guy. That might even be in the second row. But he's not going to be so this move was a gamble, and unfortunately it was one of the gambles he had to take. It's almost similar to Eric Bieniemy's situation where in order for Pat to get a head coaching job, this had to be the job for him. Unfortunately, COVID happened. Unfortunately, recruits got kicked out, and it just hasn't recovered. And from that standpoint, you can't keep peeing down the well and hoping the water's good. Like you just can't do it. And that's what we're doing. We don't have a building block. I don't see, like, if I walked away this year and I saw 2 or 3 players and I'm like, all right, these kids you can build on. But I don't think you can because I think you have to change the whole culture. You have to shock the system to get this to be a little bit better. Because I saw a team that during certain stretches, they either were very selfish, they turnover happy, and I don't even know what the hell Wahab did, but take up space. And that's the sad thing, is I think the players let Pat down at times because they just didn't execute for him in the big moments. I don't think.
Go ahead. I was going to say I agree with you.
Yeah, and partially, I know it's not it's a bad coaching job, unfortunately, because of the record. The numbers don't lie. If it was any other way, I could have some kind of recourse or some kind of empathy for this, but I don't because they have to go somewhere else. And I think it was a tough spot for them to be in, because it was a job he had to take. I don't think Georgetown was ready to go anywhere else 6 years ago when he got the job. So this was his chance. And I think John felt like it was almost his duty to get, if John wouldn't give Pat a chance, who was going to get Pat a head coach job? And I think that's where we got to in that situation. And I think, unfortunately, some of Ewing's old school mentality doesn't go over with these kids. And then you got to think about, this is a generation of kids that have no idea who Patrick Ewing is, whether as a professional, as a college player or as a professional player. He's not on their map. I mean, they can YouTube the games, but he's just not on their map.
I'm gonna say this. One of the reasons that this makes me sad, this move makes me sad, because what you said they needed to do was about to happen. You said they needed to go away from the tree of Thompson. That's about to happen. And my fear with that is, even though I know it's not even possible to ever erase what Big John did up on the hill, I just feel like they're going to erase him from Georgetown. When you think of Georgetown, you think of John Thompson, you think of that white towel, you think of 6'10" walking the sidelines. That's what you think of. And I swear, if they this tree of Thompson is, the roots and everything are eradicated, I just feels like it's going to tear down everything that he built, and it's going to go in a different direction. Then some other coach comes and let's say they do win a national championship.
Well, you're getting too far ahead of yourself.
Well, yeah, I am. But I mean, I'm an overthinker.
No, and I appreciate the overthinking, but I think you will never, and this is the beauty of time, is you'll never be able to erase Big John from the lexicon of Georgetown basketball. Is because this brand became a national brand during that time period. We're not talking about a brand that was just local. We're not talking about, this is the best team in the area. No, this was a team that nationally, when I mean nationally, I mean from the east to the west coast, you saw Georgetown Hoya paraphernalia. You had Hoya paranoia. So that tree's just going to sit a little further in the distance maybe, but that tree ain't never going nowhere. You're going to always be able to look in the backyard and see that tree. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. How often are we going to be able to sit under that tree?
Now,
me personally, I sit under that tree every day because
I got you.
That's it.
But you gotta give this program an opportunity to spread its wings. You know what I'm saying? I think that branch, that tree has taken it as far as you can take it. And then at a certain point, you just gotta get somebody new in just to give it a freshen up. It's just like going away from Gary. You went away from Gary to Turgeon. Yeah. And Turgeon probably had a better stretch than Pat, but he had a 6-year stretch where his bad luck was the year he had the best team in the Big Ten, COVID happened. And they don't even get a chance to play that tournament. So now 2 years later, he's fired because of the results from the last 2 years, not because, unfortunately, COVID happened and took away his best team. Like, everybody a lot of coaches got a raw deal out of this stretch of basketball.
That's true.
And the problem is, we're probably going to talk about it next, but some of the older programs are in a space where they don't have an identity anymore. The history is that it's the history.
And think about this, and we are going to talk about that next. But think about when you think of Georgetown basketball, Big East basketball. You got Big East basketball had a certain style. ACC had a certain style. Big Ten had a certain style. West Coast Conference out west had a certain style. Pac-10, or at that time Pac-8, had a certain style. Everybody played a certain style of ball. And none of the conferences have an identity anymore. Now, I mean, the ACC, it was, fundamentals. That was the big conference on the East Coast. That's where your Dukes and your North Carolinas, your NC States, your Marylands, Big East was, power forward, center, U's. That's where your big men came from. You had a couple guards come through, of course, but you had a lot of centers come through the Big East because you had to have centers to match up with the big guys. It's like, even if Patrick Ewing did have that one player, his forte is development of big men. Because look at what he did with Yao Ming when he was assistant coach in Houston. He had Yao Ming, Dikembe Mutombo, and somebody else. It was another big man. It was three of them because they used to go out and eat all the time, and Pat would just sit there and school them. But think about what he did with developing big men in the NBA when he worked with Dwight Howard. You can't do that in college anymore. His coaching style is not, I don't think it's built for college, because he's
you just confessed. You just confessed his sins right there. That's
because it's grown men ball. He plays grown man ball. And these dudes are big men, but they don't want to play. They don't want to. What's the term Morgan used to use? Shout out to Morgan Tabb for this one. I think Kenny Smith used to use it. He used to say it all the time. You got little big men and big little men, and we're in the era of big little men. Dudes are 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot, and they're in college and they're stretch fours, stretch fives. Nobody plays down on the block. You don't combine inside and outside. When you bring the ball up, you don't work the ball inside, then work it back outside. Everything's around the perimeter. Nobody plays that 90s brand of basketball anymore. That's why I say I don't think his coaching style is suited for college. He may be.
You just said the reason why today's move had to happen is his game. His game is shown. His style has shown that it doesn't work on this level. So you have to sometimes cut off the root so you can grow something new. And that's this situation. You have to cut something in order for something to grow.
Before we move on to the next topic, before I get too emotional, if Josh was 6'11" and Pat was still a daggone Georgetown, you sending him to go get coached up by Pat?
No.
Because he can handle that type of coaching?
No. See, I'm biased on this. My man is Izzo. So if Josh had any inkling of playing basketball, you go on to Tom. If I have a say in it. I mean, but it's his decision. So, but yeah, we be going to Tom, Michigan State. You know what I'm saying? And I'd be sitting there trying not to. Every time I meet Tom, I'm picking his brain. So it wouldn't be a Georgetown thing. And that's nothing against Pat. It's just that's my guy.
I get it.
When I draw, there's two coaches that whenever I used to go to try to find plays, I'd look for. One was Tom, and the other one's Bo Ryan. Because Bo Ryan's flex offense at Wisconsin is a thing of beauty. And it's funny you said Styles, because in those eras in the 90s and the 80s, it was the beauty of Styles making fights, where you had a team like Illinois in the 90s playing against Ohio State with Thunderburk and Jim Jackson, and then you got them playing against Michigan with Jalen and company. That conference is very underrated in that time period where they had 3 or 4 teams that could go. You think about the 80s when the Big East in 83 had 3 of the 4 Final Four teams, Villanova, St. John's, and Georgetown. So these teams and these conferences had identities. Unfortunately, because of money has stolen the identity of these conferences. So you don't have the same traditional rivalries, and then B, you lose some of the sting of just having a thing where there's this pure hatred for the team across the court. Now it's a business decision.
Speaking of money, we're gonna move on to the next topic because I don't want to cry. But this one, we got to step outside of DC for a second for this one. Jim Boeheim. We were talking about ACC. I'm sorry, we were talking about Big East proper. The Big East that we grew up with, not this money hungry thing that destroyed rivalries. But Jim Boeheim, coach of the Syracuse Orangemen. I'm sorry, Syracuse Orange is not Orange Men anymore. It's like St. John's, not the Red Men anymore.
The Red
politically correct. Yeah. I remember one time it was the St. John's Red then St. John's Redstone. It's been so many different things. I've always known him as the St. John's Redmen. But anyway, he retires after 47 years. Don't I know, don't get choked up. I understand. 1,015 wins, 440 losses in the conference between ACC and Big East. 432 and 275. He has what? How many national championships he got? One? Two? Damn, of course the daggone thing wants to.
I know he's got one with Carmelo, and he should have one with like the team that beat Indiana with the shot from no, they lost Indiana that year.
Yeah, he got one. You
would have thought Derek Coleman and company would have won one.
Yeah.
But that's the year that Smart hits that shot on the wing for Indiana, I think. I gotta look that up, but where's my phone?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. He had 3 years as a NCAA Division I independent from 76 to 79. And he didn't lose double-digit games. He didn't have a season where he lost double-digit games until 80-81. And, NCAA big games was different. But Sweet 16, round of 32, Sweet 16, NIT runner-up, round of 32, Sweet 16, round of 32, Division I runner-up. That was 86-87. They lost the championship. Round of 32 the following year. Elite 8, Sweet 16, first round exit in 90-91. Round of 32, and they were ineligible in 92-93. Sweet 16, round of 32, runner-up, lost in 95-96 in the championship. NIT round of 64 and 96-97. Sweet 16, round of 64. Sweet 16, round of 32, fourth place in NIT. And this is all in order now. Won the championship in 2002-2003. Sweet 16, round of 64. NIT quarterfinal 2 years in a row. Sweet 16. Jim Boeheim is no doubt, in my mind, a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
But I'm going to ask a tough question. What's the best player he coached?
Carmelo Anthony.
No. Hell no.
1 year he gets him his only national championship. He carries that team. You look at that team, you name me anybody else on that team.
Jerry McNamara.
You know what? Oh man. So all right. So here's a better one. Because I'm sitting here because the whole time you've been saying this. And I know part of the reason you won't give it to Carmelo is because he did it 1 year and then he was gone. And he wasn't a 3-year or 4-year star. So then if you had to make your starting five at Syracuse, point guard, who's your point guard?
Sherman Douglas.
Pearl Washington. Who's your two guard?
Well, I was going to put Pearl at the 2.
You can't. He's a point guard.
I know he's a point guard. I was going to play him out of position. I didn't say it was going to be right.
We got, come on, two guard.
Two guard. Jeez. I can't think of a two guard that came out of there that I really like.
All right, I'm going to go with Lawrence Bolton.
Okay.
3 man.
3 is, that's Carmelo. Okay.
4.
Derek Coleman.
And then 5 is the easiest.
Who's 5?
Cycling.
Eton Thomas.
Oh, come on. We didn't say the most woke. We said
what's the boy that did he went to Syracuse? What's his name? Jelani McGee? What's that? McCoy? Jelani McCoy.
No, he went to UCLA.
He went to UCLA?
Yeah.
Why do I have him in
Fab Melo?
Fab Melo, another great player that played really well, and they rest in peace, Fab. Not to mention you had John Wallace.
Yeah, John.
Syracuse John Wallace.
So the next group would be like Billy Owens,
Stevie
Thompson,
I hated Billy Owens. Boy, I swear to God, I hated Billy Owens. He used to light Georgetown up in the 90s.
I hated him in college. I hated him in college, but the second he went pro, because he plays like number 32 in the purple and gold, I was big Billy O. Professional. I didn't like him at Syracuse, but the professional Billy O was my guy.
What
and
about
then he just didn't do it. Then you got the kid that's taking over for Boeheim. I mean, that's gonna be interesting with Adrian Autry taking over. But see, I think Boeheim probably stayed 2 years too long. I think once that here we go. I think that incident on the highway should have been his exit. They should have just let him walk away and not have that fest over the program. And then also he really wasn't doing well then, because I think at that time his son was on the team, and I think they got lucky, and they didn't get lucky, but they played well enough to get in the tournament. I think the one treasure and the thing that makes Boeheim easily one of the best coaches in college basketball history is the fact that he played the 2-3 zone from the day he got there, didn't change it, and it terrorized teams, it gave teams heart problems, and he's done that for the longest. My kid would never play for him, but that off that defense, and a lot of times, I won't lie to you, we played a lot of 2-3 places I coached at, because if we had the height and the length, we would go with that, because you can crowd passing lanes and you can make teams slow down. But you're not as talented as somebody else. You can slow them down by playing the 2-3 and making them earn baskets and making them play basketball from a smart standpoint and not from an athletic standpoint.
I'm a fan of the 2-1-2, but or the 2-2-1 press. You know, more fan of that, and four corners on offense. Boring basketball,
baby John. Sure, baby John.
Boring basketball, but I guarantee you, make the right pass, make the damn play. Hey Thomas, how you doing, man? He says Lawrence Moten.
Here we go, baby. Curl High School.
And what would the Hoyas do at coaching, man?
So
that,
for the
that
Hoyas,
was first segment, I was about to cry in here.
So I think Hoyas coaching search goes the dude at Providence. I can't think of his name right now, but he's been at Providence for a couple of years. He may have played out his welcome there. I don't see them going for Pitino, just because Georgetown doesn't have enough Italian restaurants with back rooms for that to work out.
Are you talking about Ed Cooley?
Who?
Ed Cooley?
Is that the guy from NC State?
Let me see. Is he from NC State? Is he your current?
There's a coach at NC State that is an up and comer. They've talked about. I've heard people mention Jeff Capel, but I think for Capel will probably want to go. He's going to want a more established program than what Georgetown has. Georgetown is kind of starting from the roots, and I think honestly, you got to find if there's a young hot assistant that's kind of on the verge. You either got to go with him or you got to go with a young guy on the lower level that's making moves. And
which Capel? Jeff Capel, is that's North Carolina Capel, or is that
no? That's Duke, Oklahoma Capel.
Okay, what's the other Capel? Because that's his.
I think that's Jason.
Brother. Okay, because I always get them confused. Which one is which? Because I used to have
you can't get that confused. One made a smart decision going to school. He went to North Carolina. The other one went to Duke.
Here we go. I get that confused because I used to have the one that went to Carolina. That's Jason.
Right.
I had a picture of him for he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and I had that cover hanging on my wall for a little while.
Because you're a Cloud Carolina fan.
I am not, and it's about that time of year. We going on 30 years, so we can say what we want. And Thomas agrees with you. He said agreed, and that's what I think they're going to do. But I heard Pitino.
I think Pitino's the pipe. It's not a pipe dream. I think Pitino It's just something that they have to say. But I think the alum, from a money standpoint and from a business decision standpoint, I think they just need to try to invest in somebody. Actually, to be honest with you, not to be I wouldn't be a homo with this, but I like the coach of George Mason. I think he's got them in a place, and then he's going to lose his point guard this year. So if he wants to try to step up, and they can step him up to the next level, I think he would be a good person at Georgetown. He's a young, up and coming coach. You know, the other name I heard was Mike Brey, but I think Mike Brey would be too much like Pat because he's a little more old school, and I don't know if these kids are going to react to him.
And I'm not going to get into that because I'm going to dust my soapbox off and get into that soon. But I'm not going to get into that old school coaching. So let's come back home, take a trip up to College Park. The Maryland Terps men's basketball team face off against Minnesota tonight at 9 p.m. Honest opinion.
I think Minnesota shouldn't be here. Minnesota's playing with house money, but I think Maryland should win this ball game. I think Maryland has a chance to make it to the Big Ten final. To be very honest, their only problem is they don't play as the same team when they're on the road as they do when they're home. So then that makes a question of how good is this team, and B, can this team do it on a neutral site? Can they go somewhere neutral and win a ball game? And that's going to be their biggest question. That's going to be hard for them to do. I don't even think it's going. I think Maryland should win this by double. I think Maryland should win by 10. I think if Maryland comes out and plays, Maryland should beat Minnesota by 10. Because Minnesota played a game last night that they shouldn't have won. Now you're going to get one or two sides. They're going to probably come out in the first half, guns blazing and living off the momentum from yesterday. And the thing Maryland's going to have to do is withstand the storm. As long as they can withstand that storm, I think, and they make it a 2-half game, I think Minnesota runs out of gas. And they'll pull away from them right around the 7-minute mark. Because Maryland's scrappy enough that they're going to make it difficult, but they just got to withstand the storm.
Okay. I think Maryland should win this game, and I agree with Thomas. It will be a great game tonight. Maryland's 20-11. I think they are 11-9 in the Big Ten. Minnesota's 9-21. However, that says something about Maryland when it comes down to the big dance. If they are pretty much 9-2 against non-conference opponents, they don't play nobody in the Big Ten. I got them going really, really far in not only the Big Ten tournament. I got them going far in the Big Ten tournament anyway, but in the NCAA tournament, I got them going. The ceiling, maybe what it used to be under Gary, and the ceiling was always Sweet 16, because they would always get to the Sweet 16 and then lose. But I think ceiling for this team, Sweet 16.
So I'm gonna be devil's advocate. I think the bracket is going to matter for them. It depends on what number they get. Only because in the Big Ten, you play a certain style of basketball. You're more you grinding out every possession, and I think if they get the wrong team that's a little more up tempo, a little more athletic across the board, a team that can extend them and make them vulnerable in offense and speed them up, then it becomes a problem for Maryland. So I'm gonna be real curious as the matchups come out before I give them a ceiling and a floor.
Understand. I'm not gonna mess with you about that.
No, go ahead.
Thomas says, just want to see someone from the area do good in college basketball and the NBA. Look, I'm not even a Wizards fan, but I pull for the Wizards when they're not playing my Bulls. And I love to see the Wizards do good. I love to see the Nets do good.
Keep that Bulls comment pinned up for a live segment because I got questions to ask.
Okay. No, I don't like Patrick Beverley still.
No, not even that. It's not about that. No, I'm getting your commentary, because we like to inform the people here. So I like to get some information, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. Moving up not even up the Beltway, moving up 295 a little bit, going into Baltimore. Is the NFL colluding against Lamar Jackson? Because how is it that Daniel Jones gets 4 years, 160, 82 guaranteed? Agent. Lamar's on
Agent.
Mm?
Well, yeah, keep on.
Lamar Jackson's on a non-exclusive franchise tag.
Agent.
However, Lamar Jackson, his numbers are way better than Daniel Jones. His talent level and his ceiling is way better than Daniel Jones. But however, so many teams came out when he was hit with that non-exclusive tag and said, "Oh, we're not going to go after him. We're not going to sign him." And the crazy part is, why would you even come out and say that? Why are you showing your hand? That's number one. Number two, if this was Aaron Rodgers that's on a non-exclusive tag.
KG. KG. You're not doing this. You're better than this. You are the sports extraordinaire. Is that what it is? On Twitter?
It's a connoisseur extraordinaire. Okay,
so you're the sports connoisseur extraordinaire. And you're falling for, you're doing this?
But
this is beneath you, man.
But I'm throwing out what I know.
All right, no. Let's go. So these 8 teams that came out.
Hold on. Now let me tell you why I think this is collusion. Because I sent the video of Emmitt Smith talking about after the 92 season. He won the Super Bowl, contract was up. He's like, I'm done. He called Miami, called Don Shula on the phone, the great Don Shula, and said, "Hey, I'm willing to come back down and play with y'all. I want to play with you and Dan." Don Shula said, "Oh, no, I can't do that." What you mean you can't do that? Nah, I can't do that. If I give you this and it doesn't work out and they match it, I got to pay the other guys and I got to explain to them why I don't believe in them. Bullshit.
No, it's not bullshit.
Dan Marino never had a running back his whole entire career. If he had a running back, he would have at least a Super Bowl under his belt. Okay?
Facts.
You see what it did for John Elway. That's number one. Number two, why would you, a running back in his prime, who went on to become the leading rusher all time in NFL history, you can't tell me that Jerry Jones didn't put something out there. Nah, y'all not signing him. I'm going to get a deal done. He still held out in the beginning of that 93 season. However, you can't tell me something wasn't put out to say, hey, don't do it. We've seen these type of backdoor deals happen in the NFL over things. The year that it was the uncapped year. The Giants and Washington went and
you can't cut players and all that.
And we signed Albert Haynesworth to a $100 million contract. But y'all wasn't supposed to do that. It was a gentleman's agreement.
Well, so the agreement in that year was you weren't going to cut players, so that way you wouldn't get the salary cap, the freedom of the free cap. That's what that was. It wasn't about signing people. It was you couldn't go and say, all right, I'm cutting this guy because there's no cap penalty involved if I cut this guy now because I signed him to a bad contract.
Now tell me that's not
that scenario.
But that's a gentleman's agreement. Nothing was on the books.
Absolutely.
That's collusion.
So that is. But here's the difference, because I think what Jimmy was telling Emmitt is no matter what I sign you to, Dallas is going to match it.
Yeah, so he said
there's a difference in that.
There's a difference in make an offer that they cannot match. I'm going to come home.
But you don't see. I think you're giving some credit that doesn't deserve to be had. Like, I think in this scenario, what will happen is that the Miami Dolphins will give their best offer, and they will go above and beyond, and they probably tell people on their team that, hey, this is only where we're willing to go. But now you gotta go above and beyond that because you're trying to get Emmitt. And now when Dallas matches it, Now you turn around looking back at people and trying to figure out what the scenario is, what the situation is. And the same thing, hold on, because I'm about to bring this full circle because it's a boomerang. So it's going to come back around. So those 8 teams, if you look at the names of those 8 teams that said they are out on this thing for Lamar Jackson, most of those teams either have young quarterbacks that are either they're trying to make their starter or their QB1s for going forward. So if that's the case, they're not going to put out there that they're going after Lamar Jackson because they don't. Because if you pay attention to last year, when the when the Falcons said they were going after Deshaun Watson, they had to end up trading Matt Ryan. So in that scenario, you don't want to upset the apple cart with your actions. You want to keep it behind closed doors. So there's no reason, because I mean, think about it. If Washington wanted to, they could make a move. They just don't want to say it in front of Sam Howell right away, because they're saying, "Oh, he's the starter for now, as long as he does the right things."
Okay.
So there's no reason to do this with any kind of haste, and they can live behind the facade. Because maybe if something comes out and you hear through the vines that maybe you can get Lamar for 3, he get the Kirk Cousins deal. The 3 years, 155 guaranteed or 160 guaranteed. That way he gets his 50 million. Then you're good. I think right now this is all posturing. And I think it's posturing on both sides. But I think the only problem is, and I kept saying it when we were talking, is because Lamar doesn't have an agent, the league's gonna be a little more brash and saying what they won't do because they're not burning any bridges. See, if Lamar was represented by Lee Steinberg or somebody like that, nobody's going to come out and say we don't want to pay him or we don't want to do business with him, because you got all these other guys that are under Steinberg, and you probably got a couple on your roster. So you're not upsetting that person. In this scenario, this guy's represented by his mama and him. And that's the only, as far as I know, that's the only people that his mama and them got on their sports agency. So there's no cause to them saying that we're out, because they're not upsetting anybody that has any resources that's going to hurt them in the long run. This is a short-term thing. So there's no reason to even engage him and be like, oh yeah, you don't have to put that lie out there. You don't have to be quiet because you're not upsetting an agent. What he should have done is either gotten, because the other part of this problem is he has the union on his side, and the union has drained his value in this situation because this negotiation has been going on for 2 years. So they've given you their best offer. They've probably even given you a good offer where it's 165 guaranteed, but for some reason you have this notion in your head that you want the Deshaun Watson contract. They're not going there. And this is where the collusion part kind of comes in, because nobody in the league is going to try to put the next deal and work off of the Deshaun Watson deal, because that puts you in hell. Because now, if you look at it, I think Deshaun Watson's cap number is like $54.9 million each of the next, whatever the term of the deal is. If it's 5 years, the next 5 years, his cap number is 54.9. You can't talk about restructuring. You can't restructure that because it's guaranteed. You can't restructure a guarantee, a real guarantee. You can restructure a fake guarantee like a roster bonus, but you can't restructure guaranteed money. That's their wiggle room. That's why a team is not willing to give up that wiggle room. Now, the thing that the Ravens see, I almost feel bad for Lamar because he's going to be in one or two spots. He's either going to get the money he wants, not the money he wants. He's going to get a deal, but he's going to have to take the deal because it's not going to be what he wants. But it's going to be more than him getting $32.9 million. That's the decision he has to make. He has to find a number out there that's going to make him happy, even if he doesn't get the guarantees that he wants.
And Thomas says, yes, I'm so glad you brought this up. B-More wants a team to give the contract, and then B-More wants to match whatever the team offers.
Exactly.
And it'll set the table if you do that.
Because what they're telling him is, you think you have this market, show me.
Yeah. Basically, if you think you got it, let them set the table. This is what they say you're worth. I don't have to pay you what I'm paying you. Basically, what Washington did to Mason Foster a few years ago. Oh, you think you got worth? Go out there and see what you can get. Yeah. And it was substantially less than what they were offering.
Now, Thomas makes a great point, but here's the problem: you have the ownership window, because hopping into that fray means you had to put some money in escrow.
Yes.
So that becomes the issue with Washington jumping into the circus. Now, maybe there's some wink handshake deals in the back, and because maybe, let's say Roger knows that, we're selling to Josh Harris, and the guy that just came out today, I think it's Regal, with the Nasser or Danhauser group as his Regal as his partner in this deal. Maybe if we know that's in place, and this guy got added just so we could shore up his bid, and that's who we're gonna go with, then that becomes all right. So what can we do? You know what I'm saying? You get a little wink, nod, and we know we can go get Lamar now because we got ownership, some form of ownership in place, and this is who we're gonna go with for this bid. But if that doesn't happen, then they're still whistling the wind. They're still recovering, because truth be told, everybody cries about Brad Johnson getting away from this franchise. The quarterback that got away from this franchise is Trent Green. Trent Green would have been the quarterback of the future in 98 when the team got sold, maybe 99. Yeah, so whenever the team got sold, Trent Green should have been the quarterback of the future. They should have invested in him. But the problem was ownership wasn't in place, and ownership didn't get in place until the summer. So they missed out on a window of him. Because if you sign him, there's no need to go get Brad Johnson, and there's no need for you to go get Jeff George. You got a solid quarterback who, outside the year he tore his knee up, and you got to think about it, he's probably not tearing that knee up in that 99 season because he's on grass and he's in Washington and he's not playing against New England and Rodney Harrison. But that might be one of the bigger what ifs. When we get to what ifs, that might be a bigger what if than a lot of things that we want to talk about.
Well, Brad Johnson left in 99 as well, because Brad Johnson was here in 98. He was here in 99.
So then which one had to leave in 97 or something?
No, Trent Green left in because his first year was 99 with the Rams, because they wanted to sign him, but they still had Brad Johnson. They were supposed to bring him back, but couldn't get him back. Remember Brad Johnson? We had the number one offense for a few weeks with Brad Johnson. And it wasn't a passing offense. We had Stephen Davis pounding the rock. He ran for 1,400 yards. Yeah, team record that year. And of course, you got a lot of agreement coming in. Thomas agrees with you. Ms. Rogers agrees with you.
Hey, that's our college basketball person. So if you in the thing and you want this young lady to talk college basketball with us, bring her up, because I'm telling you, she knows college basketball, but she been faking.
Look, we got an open chair. And look, it's about that time. Look, we going dancing. It's time to go dancing. She was on the phone with me one day. She started breaking down. I forgot who it was we were talking about. I was like, "Yo, what you doing, dog? We need a college basketball." See, there it is. Look, okay. So we're gonna have to roll out the free agent treatment.
We might have to, though. We might have to take it to Chick-fil-A and let her get a 12-piece.
Man, see, now you make it seem like we cheat. We wouldn't even take it to Chick-fil-A. We'll find it. We'll find we can go to Miss Ethel's up in Baltimore and get you some gumbo and some Creole food or something. We'll take the Winnebago up there. We don't have no jet, but we got the Winnebago. You want to ride in style? I'll let you ride in the Grand Marquis or something. But But Thomas says ownership is holding this thing up, and I agree. Trent Green, absolutely. And
Cousins was never going to be anything because they were too short-sighted to see. Like they said that we wouldn't pay Cousins, but you paid him $72 million over 3 years, exactly, which would have been the deal that you would have gotten them with, but you don't have any foresight. That's why you're still sitting here. You end up with the name Commanders and not a good name because you didn't have foresight to say, okay, there's some pressure. Let's put in some names that we might think works and hold on to them. So that way, if push comes to shove, we're not reacting. We already have the plan in place. Then it's the same thing with when it comes to Cousins. You just had no foresight. And then for some reason, everybody in this fan base thought that you could sign Cousins for 10 or 12 million when the franchise tag was 16 or 17. Mm-hmm. Like, why am I signing? Like, dog. And I think it was so bad because everybody was on the radio indignant about it. Like, oh, I only give him 12 million. Well, you're not signing him.
Exactly.
And you tell me you don't want him because you got to, I believe you more when you say you don't want him than, oh, I should sign him for 12 because he's not signing for 12. Your job can't be paying you, say that your next raise is 25 and expect you to sign for 20 or $19 an hour, whatever. That's not happening.
Exactly. I said give him if the franchise tag was 17, I said I don't want to give him 20. I said 17.5 and incentive laden. That was the thing.
You'd have gotten off cheap if you take the first year.
No. I'm sorry. 17.5 was the base, but incentive laden because the incentive that I would have laden in that contract, he would have hit all of that. So his bonuses would have been great.
KG, you don't have to do an incentive label. All you do is the first 2 years. So the first 2 years of the franchise tag would have been, I think, somewhere between 37 and 40 million. So you make that his guarantees and give him a 4-year. We're probably looking at 90 million with 40 in guarantees or something like that. I don't have the number structure in my head right now because I'm doing math on the fly, but you can make a deal work. And then, because of course, I've been saying this every time we talk contracts. Every contract, if it's a 4-year deal, it's a 3-year contract. That last year is where we either hide money or we use that to either get rid of the guy with no debt, with no cap penalty, or we restructure that and sign an extension, and that's where our money comes in to get us another contract where we get a cheap year, and then we go on from there. Without going into the woods, I'm sorry.
And yes, ma'am, I am talking. I will get with management and the secretaries and see what we can set up, see what we can do.
We just got to make sure the allergies ain't acting up because sometimes she loses her voice.
And yeah, Thomas, we're going to treat it right. We are. We're going to definitely treat it right.
What was that? I missed it. There we go.
The problem is the owner is a fan and not a businessman. He picked the wrong coaches and over-the-hill players. Yeah, that's always been a problem.
I got to push back on that because I think he was too reactionary. I think if you look at the layout of like the sports media at the time with his coaching decisions, he went. His biggest problem was Schottenheimer. He couldn't bring Schottenheimer and he couldn't put Schottenheimer into the program and the process that he wanted. So then came to
what?
He didn't.
Okay, go ahead.
So what happened was sports talk fans cried about the offense. Schottenheimer didn't start off well. He was 0-5. They ended up 8-8. One of the biggest things that they wanted to do was he wanted to change the offense. He wanted a more dynamic offense. Which called he wouldn't get rid of his guy. I can't think of his name now, but he wouldn't get rid of his OC at the time, and that was their place where they fought. They butted heads. He got rid of him. The next move he made, he went and got an offensive guy, Spurrier, which was an overreaction because Steve didn't have any concepts. Steve was the old ball coach, and just because he had more talent than you, we were going to win ball games, and that was it. And then after that, was that Joe 2.0?
Yep.
So he had to get back in the fans' good graces. He brought you Joe 2.0 because he knew you would genuflect at the altar of Joe. And then after Joe, we went Jim Zorn. Mm-hmm. And the only reason he went Zorn is because he tried to throw that test bag of Jim Fossil out there, and Fossil that landed like a lead balloon. So he knew he couldn't go Fossil, and the well had dried up. So the only thing he could do was look at his offensive coordinator and say, "You feel like being the head coach?"
That man wanted to quit, and his wife wouldn't let him.
Then after that, we went. Who's after him?
That was Shanahan.
That's Shanahan. And the only problem Shanahan had was he hired a snake. He hired Bruce Allen, and Bruce Allen snaked his way through, whispered potions in Dan Snyder's ear, and turned him against Shanahan. And of course, the whole RG3 thing and everything else was an issue. And that was that segment of that era. And then we ended up with Gruden, and Gruden was stuck trying to resurrect RG3. And then they had Cousins, and then they didn't want to pay Cousins. And then it didn't turn out well, and then boom. And I know I'm turning. Go ahead. What you want to say?
Let's backtrack. You talk about Marty. You talk about Marty. Let's start with Marty, because he when he came in, I knew he was going to get rid of Norv. And I always said if they would have opened the pocketbook for Norv like they did everybody else, we'd have been a way better team. That's number one. Number two,
didn't like Norv.
No, he didn't. Number
two. And
then
the other problem is, and the thing that gets overlooked in that stretch is they were in the wild card race, and because whatever him being reactionary and being petulant, he fires Norv and has Robisky for those last couple games in that 2000 season. That team should have made the playoffs that year.
Number two.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Number two. With Marty, he didn't understand that there's a gleam, man. There's a gleam. I love Marty. That's why I love Marty. But he, what did he say on Marty's Football Life? I wanted to separate the head coach from the general manager. I didn't want him to be. Look, Marty's successful. Leave him alone. Yeah, he started off rocky. We went 5-3 later on in the season. Last 8 games, 5-3.
But you know what's funny?
I'm sorry, 8-3. I'm not mad at that.
But the sports media acts as if they had this thing where, we can't let Marty go. No. They were on board for Marty being gone. I remember the sports junkies used to be on whatever, HFS or whatever, and they complained incessantly about the offense, the team, what Marty was doing, and they should get rid of Marty. And now they act like they got revisionist history when they talk about him. So that's the funny part to me is so many people. When I sit back and I remember going home because that's when I was going to games. So I had to listen to my dad and them and everybody else as we were in the car or we were driving back from the game and the radio. And so yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Because
next point.
Hold on, I gotta get to these comments here.
All right.
Think of how McVay and that's LaFleur and Kevin O'Connell were all here, and we go Ron. True indeed.
Well, McVay. All right. So.
And you are. Okay. You're the worst.
So let's go back to that last one with Thomas.
Okay.
So I always tell people, McVay wasn't their fault. McVay was a year too early. And here's how I'm going to explain this. So McVay gets the interview to go to St. Louis or LA. And then the day before his interview, I'll never forget this. I'm sitting there listening to Grant Paulson on the radio talk about the qualities of McVay and what makes McVay a head coach. And the second he finished making that statement, I said, McVay's never coming back from Los Angeles ever. If Los Angeles doesn't lock him in a room and make sure every way, like every door he turns into is just another part of the building that's out there at the Rams facility, they're stupid. This guy is too smart. And then I think if you ever pay attention, they talk about his recall, and you'll hear him talk about, it was a 3rd and 2, and we was in such and such. The call was this, and blah, 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 blah. Like, that's uncanny. That's just one of those things. So I knew he wasn't going to go anywhere. The Green Bay coach, LaFleur, he was part of the Shanahan staff. So you knew you couldn't get that back because you had burned that bridge with the Shanahan. So he was going to go ride with the Shanahans, and he ended up going with Kyle. No, he was with McVay in the Rams, and then he goes to Tennessee, and then from Tennessee he gets the Green Bay job. The Minnesota, Kevin O'Connell wanted out of town because he was here for the dysfunction that was Callahan. Because I think there was rumors, and this is just so like if we have the capital allegedly, like this is the whole allegedly statement segment. But there was talks of like Callahan going behind Gruden's back and showing Allen the game plan and like trying to make adjustments. And if Kevin O'Connell saw that, he wasn't staying here. And I think the other problem he had was that Ron came in and wanted to kind of have some people he knew on the staff, and I don't think O'Connell was going to do that. So he wouldn't give O'Connell the ability to build his own staff.
Okay.
So that was the problem there. Because I knew, I mean, that he wanted to bring Drew Terrell. And the only reason I say Terrell is because I've been watching, I think it's the 2018 season with the Carolina Panthers all in.
Mm-hmm.
I think I went back. So when all season I revisit all these kind of little shows, but I went and revisited that, and like Terrell was his guy. So he was coming here no matter what. And I think that's part of the reason you don't get O'Connell is because he wanted a couple of his guys to come here that he had been grooming. Haynesworth was down when he signed.
Yeah. And I think
Haynesworth actually was at his peak. The problem when he got here is we tried to change him into we was running the 3-4.
Hold on. He came in under Zorn. Came in under Zorn. And we were running the 4-3. You know, that's when he pulled the he laid down against Philly. Yeah. He laid down. Ground. He did nothing. When Shanahan came in, Shanahan told him, "Hey, we're going to switch to the 4-3. Are you okay playing a 3 technique?" "Yeah, I'm good with it. I'm good. Okay, because I want to know if you're okay because we're going to pay you this roster bonus. If you're okay." He accepted the roster bonus, then he started bitching. And all you had to do is instead of pressing up in the 3 technique, all you have to do is sit there and wait for your chance. You may not get a bunch of sacks, but you make an impact because you sit there and you wait and then you react and you go. You get after them. You couldn't do that. You paying me $100 million. I do whatever the hell you want me to do. I'm going to learn something different. I'm not going to be a one-trick pony because when he left here, he went to New England and got cut.
Right.
So yeah, Haynesworth.
But he wasn't also taking care of himself. He wasn't exactly one of the best playing or anything.
All he wanted to do was his boat was docked down there somewhere in the Potomac. All he wanted to do was go ride on his boat. Thomas says Deion robbed us with a pistol. Yeah, he committed highway robbery without a gun. And Bruce Smith, Jason Taylor, and Terrell Pryor. Terrell Pryor was one of the worst signings. I'll never let Keefe from the block live this down. He made that one catch in practice, Terrell Pryor. Oh man, he gonna have 1,000 yards to do. He's not gonna have 1,000 yards. He's not gonna be a viable receiver.
I would change this around. I think Bruce Smith got us with a pistol because all he wanted was the sack record, and he realized once he got here that it was all for him. His money was guaranteed. He was just trying to get him taken care of. He wasn't gonna do anything else. Jason Taylor just is another story of how this team panics when something happens and we don't have a plan, because I think we gave up a first or maybe 2 firsts for him to come over because somebody got hurt in the preseason. Because then we also have the infamous sooner after that we got the TJ Duckett trade where we gave up a 2nd and 3rd for him.
And I actually like
because this team doesn't have foresight. You just if you just keep Stephen Davis and don't trade him for Trump candidate, things are different in this world.
Trump candidate made a name for himself being Marshall Faulk's backup. Everybody thought he was the next big Marshall Faulk thing. And I said that. I said, no, he is a bum. It's a flipping bum.
Oh my God. He's a University of Washington Husky. He was my guy at Washington. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Who was that hit him on the sideline and made him fumble his first practice?
Matt Bowen.
Popped him. I was like, yep, is this your king? Is this your king?
Now, Terrell Pryor is the reason that from this day forth, I no longer accept anybody's workout video. If you send me a workout video, it will get deleted automatically and on site. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what hoops you jumping through. You can bench press 4 fat ladies and a midget on your back. I don't care. It's a workout video. It does nothing for me. It does me no good. If you ain't got pads on and you ain't playing a team with a different jersey on, I don't care. So you waste your time. Send me any video you want of some dude working out. I'm telling you right now, delete it.
And we're still talking about the owner of the Washington Commanders. Oh yeah, but he made Ron a GM, and he never been a damn GM. Damn yourself for anything.
That's called the loser tax. That's called the loser tax.
And
so
technically,
technically, Ron wasn't. Ron is still is coach centric. Let's stay in the lexicon that you want to use. So this is a coach centric place, and then he let Ron pick the GM and everything else, but it's still based off of Ron having overall say. And I think the second they hire somebody, I mean not hire, but the second they get an owner, we're going to see some things change, and it's going to change quickly.
Well, let me say this really, really quick. We were going through the coaching changes. If Danny Boyd would have left Marty alone, I think we would have been all right. But
he couldn't help himself.
No, he couldn't, because you know what? You know one thing Marty did that pissed him off? They said Serrato couldn't be in the building. He said, I don't want him in my fucking building. Get him the fuck out of here.
Yep.
And Vinny Serrato, everybody talked about the what was it, the 2010 draft? The Malcolm Kelly and Devin Thomas and Fred Davis draft. Everybody talk about, that was the best draft that we had.
That was the worst draft.
That was not. We got nothing out of that draft. I never seen Malcolm Kelly play outside of me playing with him on Madden.
You do know who was in that. So I can't remember if it was Malcolm Kelly or the pick after Devin Thomas, but there's a player that they should have drafted, and I screamed. If there was a table, I was standing on it. There was a defensive lineman, 6'8", out of University of Miami that played for the Hurricanes named Calais Campbell. We hadn't drafted a defensive lineman in the first 2 rounds since we drafted, what's the other kid from Miami? Now of course his name escapes me. But that was like a couple years before that. You had the opportunity to draft Calais Campbell, a certified great defensive tackle, and you chose to pick Malcolm Kelly with a bad knee, and you chose to pick Devin Thomas, who I didn't know. I mean, and then you picked Fred Davis
because they thought Fred Davis was going to be the next Vernon Davis.
Still, no matter what you thought, like that whole process was terrible. Like you traded back, and so I think in that stretch was also a stretch where I think they had 5 drafts, because I'll never forget this magazine. This magazine I bought, it talked about 5-year windows. And in this 5-year window, I think the Redskins had maybe 16 draft picks or 20 draft picks in that 5-year window, because they traded away a lot of those picks to get these rentals, whether it was Jason Taylor, TJ Duckett, and the lights. And even Michael Rump was in part of that, I think. So as you go through this, there's like, when I looked at it, you had nothing. You received nothing from it. I think it was like Cooley, Jansen, and maybe something else out of that. Like you didn't gain anything out of those drafts that you had. And we're talking about a 5-year window. You can't put a team together like that.
No, you can't.
And go ahead.
That was the 2008 draft that they called the best draft in recent years. I remember Kevin Sheehan used to go on and on about this. Devin Thomas, Fred Davis, Malcolm Kelly, all in the second round. Chad Reinhardt in the 3rd. Justin Tryon in the 4th. We picked the fucking punter in the 6th. And Durant Brooks, who never played. Kareem Moore in the 6th. Colt Brennan in the 6th, who they could have cultivated to be a franchise quarterback. He could have been a game manager.
No.
Don't. No. Content. Rob Jackson in the 7th, and Chris Horton with his sesamoid in the 7th. Chris Horton is, out of everybody on here, Chris Horton, Rob Jackson, and Colt Brennan in the preseason. That's it. That's all we got production out of. Fred Davis couldn't stay off the wacky tobacco long enough to play. Okay. Okay. Let me finish this up. So you had Marty. He couldn't get out of his way with Marty. You go from Marty to Steve Spurrier. Steve Spurrier was like, okay, well, I want 7 receivers on the field. Well, Steve, we can't put 7 receivers on the field. You have to have blocking. You have to have offensive linemen. If I could sacrifice offensive line for a receiver, I'd do it. Get him the hell out of here. Then we go to Joe Gibbs, which is January 2004, one of the greatest weeks of my life. Joe Gibbs comes to the Redskins, Dario's born, and it snowed all in the same week. Greatest week of my life.
And the only problem is Joe Gibbs ruined Clinton Porter's career.
Yeah, because he tried to turn him into a power back.
Yep.
But, however...
And here's the problem. All Washington had to do was stay... I think maybe they trade up a little bit, and you draft the perfect Joe Gibbs running back that year, which was Steven Jackson. All you had to do. You draft Steven Jackson out of Oregon State that year. Joe Gibbs doesn't have to do anything to get Portis. And instead of using that pick on Portis, trading Champ and that second round pick, which ended up becoming Tatum Bell, maybe you still got to trade Champ because Champ had some things going on.
Yeah, his wife wanted out. And I was like, how did she want out of a winter climate to go to a winter climate?
Some things happen. DC happened. So allegedly. But still, back on track. It's just, that whole thing. I think Gibbs made a wrong choice by making a move to get Portis. He should have gotten picks or other equity in that scenario because Portis is a great runner. He's a speed runner, and you want to go 40 gut. You can't go 40 gut with a guy that weighs 205 or 210. He's built on speed. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's one of those cases where I think Joe didn't adjust enough. And that's only one of the only few times I can say that out loud as a fan, because he was too reluctant to open up his running game. He tried to it in places, but I don't know if they taught it well enough to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And I agree with Thomas because I said this. I've been saying this for years. Marty was right for this team. 0-5, then go 8-8. And he went to San Diego. He had them San Diego boys rolling, but he couldn't. Him and AJ Smith couldn't get along. So they bring in Nov.
That was the only problem. Yeah.
They bring in Nov, and Nov kind of keeps them rolling, but that's Marty's team. It could have happened. It could have been good here. Thomas says, yes, Malcolm Kelly and Devin Thomas was the worst pick. And Devin Thomas stayed out the whole year with a hamstring injury. Yep. And Malcolm Kelly stayed out with the knee injury. And Chris Horton was a good safety until a neck injury. That's true. He was very, very serviceable.
That 1 year. Chris Horton, what college?
UCLA.
There you go.
Yeah. I know that. Yeah. Joe should have stayed retired. The system changes by then. Yeah. The game had passed him by.
The only problem that I had with Joe is Joe he went to every retirement home and brought all the guys back and didn't bring any fresh ideas.
You know what that was? I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not trying to be funny. Have you ever seen Uncle Drew?
Yeah,
that's what Joe Gibbs returning was. It was like
you know the movie I would have gone with. It's the joint where it's Morgan Freeman, Robert De Niro, Michael Douglas, and they go to Vegas. I can't think of the name of the movie.
I know what you're talking about.
That's what that was. We just got the gang even better. BC. I see. I wasn't. That's why we said allegedly. I said allegedly.
We gonna have to find a way to get together because y'all gonna have to tell me something about this because I did not know this. This is news to me. We're gonna have to talk about this after the show. Y'all gonna have to find. I don't want to hear no allegedly. After the show, I want to hear all the tea.
I'm just saying allegedly.
I just want to hear all of it.
I'm saying allegedly.
I mean, was it Andre Blatch in the streets? Like he was down DC Live drinking Armandale and shit. Like Andre Blatch was skinny and had a pot belly.
I'm just gonna say it's some things. I just heard some things. I got sources. You know what I'm saying? I got respect my sources.
We'll talk about that offline. The Sean Taylor laws hurt Gibbs personally. Yep, it sure enough did. Him and Greg Williams, it hurt them personally. I think that's what.
But see, you know what?
That Gibbs retired with. That's why he was like, you know what, I'm gonna hang this up.
See, and the problem I have with with this is I think Gibbs and company, they were too staunch at times with the guys that had talent. So there was no way that LeVar Arrington should have been sitting behind what's my man, Lamar Marshall. And then my favorite, the guy that the only time you heard his name was during player introductions, was Warwick Holdman. No way those two guys should have played more than LeVar Arrington at any point. And that was my other problem that I had with Joe 2.0 is I thought Joe was too reluctant to allow his athletes to be athletes. Mm-hmm. And then the fact that Sean Taylor doesn't play or doesn't start the first 5 or 6 games of his rookie season. We didn't see the Hall of Fame game. You didn't see the fact that he went through it around and got an interception for a touchdown, but we're going to try to make him fit. We're going to play Pearson Prelude over Sean? No. And I think the biggest mistake that Gibbs 2.0 was he tried to establish Gibbs. He tried to establish something that he didn't need to establish. He needed to let his athletes be athletes. Because when you got a freak athlete like him, and then you got the human muscle ball, LaRon Landry and company. I mean, things should just happen. I've never seen a man tackle somebody after an 18-yard loss and tap his chest and point to the sky, but
yeah,
it's called the LaRon Landry.
And we had the Area 51. I still say that was next to Danny Copeland and Brad Edwards.
Nah.
I think that was the best safety tandem that we had. I'm sorry.
Nope. Give me Ken Houston and whoever he was with. I'll take that every day over that.
See, you can't even name the other guy.
That doesn't matter. It's Ken Houston.
Yeah, it is. I'll give you that. But
the other part of the problem was with Area 51 is your corners was Mike Rump. Your corner was the kid they stole from the Indianapolis Colts. They couldn't cover foot.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Like
that's why
that was their biggest problem.
The whole backside from sideline to sideline.
Right. That was their biggest problem was the corners and safeties. I mean, the corners stunk and the safeties were great. And then your pass rush was
Yeah. And the movie you were talking about, The Old Guys.
The Old Guys. Thank you, sir.
And you know what's crazy? I sit and I think about it. LeVar Arrington played out of position almost his whole entire career. I always thought that was the part about him. He played out of position his whole entire career.
LeVar Arrington, I'm gonna tell you. This is how I say it. Micah Parsons is having the career that LeVar Arrington should have had.
I agree.
You don't give that dude a title.
You just let him play anywhere.
I'm gonna tell you. All right, here's the best example of it. There's a little movie. I think it came out 93, maybe 94. No, probably 94, 95. There's a linebacker that wore number 56. His name was Alvin Mack.
That was 93.
When he saw the tape, he was like, "What do you do?" He said, "Kill them all and let the paramedics sort them out." That's LeVar Arrington. That should have been LeVar Arrington's motive. Because you kill them all, let the paramedics sort them out.
Oh my God! Hey, you punk motherfucker! You the one that killed my brother.
My mama.
Oh, you can't look at me now, huh? Man,
yes,
the way
sir.
It's so hyped up. Oh, whew. The Program. I love that movie. Thomas say Alvin Walton and Raphael Cherry was the best safety until Sean Taylor and Ryan Clark.
No. Because Cherry's another one of those. Cherry had 1 year. If anything, if he said Todd Bowles and Alvin Walton, I'd give him a leg to stand on. But it's you said it best. It's Copeland, Edwards, Taylor Clark, Taylor Clark, and that's another mistake they made by not getting Clark back.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's this team being reactionary and not progressive.
Well, let's jump into this last segment and wrap it up real quick.
All right, let's wrap it up, D.
Last segment. Well, this segment of Lamar Jackson and collusion is brought to you by him and his mom and them sports agency fucking up contracts for the last 2 years. And don't forget to hit up Helen Hunt Motors It's only one location, so it's near you. You need a good car, reliable transportation, go to hell and hunt for it. All right. Last but not least, Eric Bieniemy has his staff set. Offense coordinator Eric Bieniemy, quarterbacks coach Tavita Pritchard, Luke Del Rio, assistant quarterbacks coach and offensive quality control. Randy Jordan is the running backs coach. Assistant running back coach coming back is Jennifer King. I'm happy about that. Bobby Ingram has signed as the wide receivers coach. Ron Castillo is the tight ends coach. Assistant tight ends coach is Todd Storm. O-line coach John Matsko. Assistant offensive line Travell Wharton. Senior offensive advisor game management is Ken Zampese. Offensive assistant Tyree Reed Jr. Offensive quality control Shane Tube. And I think that rounds out the offense. That's a large staff. We talked about Joe Gibbs. That's a Joe Gibbs large staff.
I like see the beauty of coaching and this whole thing with the NFL is you can take care of your guys. So Travell Wharton, an old guard in Carolina. I'm gonna get off of that because I don't want to go with the Commanders thing. I'm gonna go with the theme that I initially started with. Bobby Ingram. I like Bobby Ingram from two standpoints. One, because I think he was a guy that he had to be a technician. He was quicker than fast. And I love that moniker, but he's quick. He's a guy that's quicker than fast. And I believe that when it comes to the Terrys, the Dotsons, the Samuels, and the other guys, that he will make them hone in on their craft of their ability to run a route. The other part I like about the Bobby Ingram thing is maybe he can get fair catch Dax to actually return punts because he was a great punt returner in Penn State and even better in Seattle. So maybe he can give some advice. You know, so maybe we don't always have to tap into the Brian Mitchell tree, and we can go to Bobby Ingram on staff and get him to actually teach Dak how to like run forward on punt returns. So that's the other reason I like the hire.
Well, I'm loving the staff, but it don't mean a thing until them live bullets are flying come September. Don't mean a thing. We can have the biggest and brightest staff, but it means nothing if we don't produce and we don't have at the least a top 10 offense.
Here come baby Doc.
Can't be a manhood issue.
The only thing you start saying is we need a hero.
Yeah, go ahead. We actually do. The offense needs a hero. You know, you can't allow teams to come in and push you around. You can't allow them to sit at your table and eat your dinner and goose your wife and burp in your face. This cannot happen.
Right, so let me ask this question: how much of a draft guy are you?
Pretty big when it's a deep talent pool, but I know there's talent that's unseen and untapped.
Okay, so we're gonna go without names. Your ideal first three picks. So we're talking 1 at 16, whatever the second round pick, and that's 3 because of today. The compensatory pick they get for Sheriff is the 97 pick in the third round, which is their highest compensatory pick that they've ever received. Mm-hmm. And then they also received a 6th for Tim Settle, which actually sounds like a decent trade. If you took the blinders off and said, "Oh, we traded Tim Settle for a conditional 6th round pick for the next year," a lot of people will probably take that in hindsight, or and just in any circumstance. You say, "Oh, I'm gonna trade him for a 6th pick the next year." You can't get mad at that because you got so much depth. You got so much in front of them because you drafted Fedarian and you have Payne and whatchamacallit. You can see getting rid of Settle for a 6th round. So the question would be, if you had to tell me position only, you ain't gotta give me a name. 1, 2, 3. How do you see yourself going those positions? Because I'm on mock draft like 2025. So
Well, with that 16th pick, I think I would go fullback, and that second round pick, I would go.
Lying. You lying.
No. That first round pick, if available, if he's there, I would go corner.
Who's he?
Joey Porter Jr.
He's gonna be there.
So I would.
I don't like he as much as everybody else, but I get it.
Okay, that's if he's there. I would go.
No, he's gonna be there. He's gonna be there.
I would go corner. About that. That second round pick. I think I try to find me the best O lineman and that's on the board. Best O lineman. That third round pick, linebacker. Just because I need depth. But I love late round picks. I love third round and on picks because those guys are hungry. You know, you find a lot of gems, and it's a lot of guys that are hungry and got something to prove. And a term that I don't like to use is those guys play with chips on their shoulders. I don't like to use that term. I'll tell you about that later. But I don't like to use that term because of some things. And I'll tell you about that off air. But yeah, I think that's where I would go. But we don't need no D lineman. We need secondary and linebacker help. We need O-line depth. We need help at the O-line position as much as possible.
So right now, I'm not gonna say that because I don't think he's gonna be there. So the top two corners I have is Christian Gonzalez and Devin Witherspoon, the kid from Illinois. He didn't run at the combine because of hamstring, but his physicality, oh my gosh. So if I have to stay put in this draft with all of my picks, so I stay at 16, I think I still draft a corner, and maybe that ends up being Joey Porter Jr. And I just have to try to make sure he's not too handsy. Second round pick, if the gods smile on me, John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota, the center is there. And if he's not there, maybe Alex Marr from South Dakota State. Where did Carson Wentz go? That was North Dakota, right?
North Dakota.
Yeah, so North Dakota is a kid that played all three line positions at the combine. I would draft him if I can't get John Michael Schmitz. And then in the third round, the kid I want is the Tennessee right tackle because he's a true right tackle and he has a skill set. And I think if you put him at right tackle, you put Cosme at guard, you go with Schmitz at either center or guard. I would put him at center and put Rouye at guard. And then go with, I guess you got Leno as your left tackle for now. And then you got what's the guy that's been our swing tackle the last 2 years? He played right tackle. Lucas.
Yes.
So he becomes the swing. And then you bring back Larson. So now you have Larson, Rouye, and Schmitz as your three centers. Because suppose this team goes through centers like the toilet tissue. So that would be my scenario there. And that's why I think your man Wes Weiser becomes expendable because of the numbers game, not because of the talent.
What about
because I think you stick with Chris Paul. I think you stick Paul as your primary backup guard because I think he's shown you enough, and hopefully the leap he takes in year 2, if somebody falters, he can just step right in and take their job. I think that's where you have the hope.
Yeah, that's why I would love to have a center playing like that. He is. He's a dog.
He played every spot on the line, in every drill. I loved him, and I think you can do one or two things with him. You can play him at guard, or you can play him at center. You can play him at tackle, But I think if you play him at tackle, you gotta play him at right tackle.
Yeah,
he's not a left tackle, and I think part of that's just from an arm distance thing, length thing, and then also just I think he looked too natural to me at guard for me to play him anywhere else.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. You said you had a Chicago Bull question real quick. You had a commentary on Chicago Bulls.
So the story out of Chicago is Lonzo Ball they're trying to figure out if he's going for a third surgery or not to try to correct this knee issue. He hasn't been able to jump or run without pain. So the question for you is, if you're Chicago management, are you pushing for another surgery, or are you still trying to get him to rehab this knee injury?
If it's a matter of surgery, as management, the first person I'm calling is Dr. James Andrews. That's the first person I'm calling, orthopedic surgeon to the stars. And I'm letting him tell me what we do, and then I will sit down. And ultimately, I can't push for, as a management, I can't push for the surgery. I have to know, hey, Lonzo, if you want to do this, you know, it's up to you. But if you don't, you got to rehab. It's going to be intense. I'm going to do everything I can to support him in a rehab or the surgery, whatever he chooses. But I can't push for it. I want him back nice and strong. I don't want to cut him. None of that. I don't. Everybody, oh, we got to get rid of him. We need the money. Should have gave Zach LaVine the money you gave him. We gave him money for nothing. I was pissed when we signed him. I haven't really been overall happy with him because I lost Jimmy Butler. As a Bulls fan, it's only 3 times as a Bulls fan that I've ever cried. When they broke up the championship team after '98, when they renounced Jordan's rights, traded away Scotty, let Dennis go. When they broke that up, I cried. Draft day, when they traded Derrick Rose, I stood in the middle of the floor and I cried. Then exactly a year later, they traded away Jimmy Butler, and I cried. I stood in the floor and I boo-hoo cried. I laid on the bed and cried because I was like, yo, y'all breaking up something that we trying to build here, and you trade away our best player.
Okay.
I was hurt. I'm not trying to go through that again. That's why, I mean, LaVine came at a time where I felt we were trying to get ourselves together. And I'm not afraid to admit, oh man, I cried. I live and die with this team. And I have since I was 8 years old. I'm 41. It's going to be like that. I mean, the story's going to come out before the end of the week because, of course, I tell it every year around the NCAA tournament, the 93 championship game. I cried. This guy. It still hurts.
Hey, we appreciate your Trail of Tears, man.
It's okay. But, no, I'm not rushing.
Shout out to Dolores Carroll.
Yep.
Shout out to Dolores Carroll.
Yeah. Bring we got a standing bet. I told her if Dallas ever wins anything of significance and I can get a t-shirt, she getting one. She's talking about, don't bring that shit in my house. Oh baby, it's already in there. Look, it's gonna be hanging in your closet. I'm gonna get about several of them. Every time you throw one away, it's gonna be another one hanging.
I'm just saying, she did a thing that any good mother would do. She went and got her child something of a championship team. You know, hey.
That hurt. It's like punching somebody in the gut in the dark, man. That hurt.
That was beautiful.
That was not. I literally lived and died with the Fab Five. Mm-hmm. The bald head, the long black socks, the black shoes, the baggy shorts, all of that. Only thing I don't do now is the bald head. I still wear black socks most of the time. Not as much as I used to, but I still wear black socks. I still wear black shoes. I still wear baggy shorts. Dudes coming in the gym with half thigh shorts. Nah, man, my shorts got to come down below my knees, man. Like I wear baggy shorts because of the Fab Five. Just what I do.
I mean, and again, like I tell people, there's a 30 for 30 sitting out there. They kind of started it a little bit when they talk about Hoya paranoia, but there's a cultural or maybe a hip hop culture 30 for 30 where we actually get into Georgetown Hoya basketball. You get into Allen Iverson. You get into the Fab Five. You get into Allen Iverson, where you talk about their impact that goes beyond the basketball court and how they actually affected the dress of hip hop in that time and in that era and in that situation, because they were more influential on the hip. It's them and Hennessy. It's them, Hennessy, and like those are the things that have grown by leaps and bounds because of hip hop.
Don't forget about Air Force Ones.
Air Force Ones, yeah, exactly.
But the only thing Nelly did, he said, Air Force Ones and Nike, they made a lot of money off him. He got no residuals. Yeah, only thing you did was make daggone Air Force Ones more expensive. I used to go get a low pair of Air Force Ones for $42. Now they $110. Like, dude, that's a great summer shoe.
So I've talked about this before, but back in the day, you could get a jersey customized. Man, I ain't spend over $60-$70. I get whatever team jersey I want. I got the Washington Redskins. I got a Tennessee Titans jersey. I got a St. Louis Rams jersey. If I thought the jersey was sick, yeah, I was getting it. And there's only one jersey that I will never get, but I always want it. It's the red New York Giants third jersey. Man, that thing's a dog, but I will never wear it. But there's one that I might get soon, and it's that Patriots red. The Steve Grogan / Irvin Frye, Mosi Tutupu, John Stevens, and Andre Tippett, that whole squad.
The old with
the Patriots snapping the ball, John Hanna and company. Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, now me in the closet right now, I got a Sean Taylor jersey, throwback 1933 Sean Taylor jersey, 1982 John Riggins, and a 1993 Warren Moon. Those are my three. And after that, I used to have a Ray Lewis, and I had a black Ray Lewis jersey. The first year they bought out them black jerseys, had a black Ray Lewis jersey. I don't know. I moved around so much. I don't know what happened to that. Of course, I had a Darryl Green jersey. But I had different ones, man. Different ones. But, hey, man, we got to get up out of here because we're going to keep going, and we can go all night. Leroy say, Craig James. Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
So we thank everybody for joining us tonight. I can't even say we didn't do any overtime. We got into such good conversation. Thank you, everybody that commented tonight, that showed up, man. Appreciate it. Come back again Saturday night. We talking wrestling. Hopefully, if we don't talk wrestling, we're gonna talk something. We got to fill in for the WrestleManiacs. We're gonna do it. But we'll be back Saturday. Then we'll be back again on Sunday. Because if I'm not mistaken, Sunday is Selection Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, but we going on at 11. So what we doing?
Yeah,
we can't really do. So we doing Sunday morning 11, and I think we doing Selection Monday at
7:38.
All right, there we go.
So that way we can fill out our brackets. We're gonna do one half on Monday and then another half on Tuesday. So we gonna next week
we're gonna shoot out the link.
Yeah.
We'll post the link in the on the bottom of the screen on Monday and Tuesday where you can jump in with the Sideline Junkies and you can see how your picks go with our picks for the March Madness. So Terry Rogers, since you don't want to come on the show, at least you can do a bracket with us.
Look, she ain't got to worry about it. We got the whole PR campaign. I done already sent out the text message. We already got the PR campaign working up. And thank you.
It is.
Thank you. Thank y'all. I like the love, man. I appreciate it.
Lee Ice is my guy. I gotta give him a special shout out because he got this started for me. We did our show back All In Sports, and he done take it to a whole different level. My man was at Vegas doing post Super Bowl interviews and doing his thing. So yeah, like honestly, without that little tag team back then, like I wouldn't be in this circuit in this market. Trying to just make it move. So appreciate you, brother. You know what I'm saying? Always One Love, you and Vogue. And yeah, we're gonna get it together, man. Make it do what it do, baby.
Yeah, she gonna get you.
Here we go.
Look, she gonna get you, not me. She gonna get you.
Right. I got you.
I'm absolved. I'm good. Thank y'all for joining us, and we appreciate the love. Please just keep coming back. Keep the conversation going. And if you're not already a part of the Sideline Junkies 24/7 group, please join us. Jump in the conversation there. Start some conversations. Let's get it going. But
if you ain't part of the YouTube, make sure you hit the click the subscribe button and jump on it with YouTube, so that way you get your notifications there if you don't get them through Facebook.
That's true. And then we on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you stream a podcast at, we there. I promise you that. Yeah. We are there. And man, this joint's it's time for this Maryland game. You are absolutely right. We got to go because it's already 9:41. So until Saturday, this thing is just so glitchy today. Until Saturday, can't say we don't do no overtime, but we are out of here.